I remember Duncan Chance, the director at University of Northern Colorado and an original teammates of mine when we were pioneering Chi Alpha here at Colorado State. I remember him talking about his first interactions with Chi Alpha, and he ended up coming to a worship service with with one or two other guys, and they were invited by this small group leader that brought them. But right after the service, this guy that Duncan really didn't know walked up to him and said, "Hey, you're part of my small group." And at that point, Duncan didn't even know what is a small group. You know, what do you mean? What am I a part of? And the guy said, "Don't worry about it. I'll just pick you up tomorrow night. We'll have it over at my place." And Duncan was like, "Okay." Now, I'm not saying that was necessarily a good way to go about inviting Duncan into his small group, but what I think was so cool about it is that he did invite Duncan. So often we just kind of hope that people will join our small group community by really just us inviting them to the weekly meeting or inviting them to ministry activities or events. I remember me doing that one year, and a student, after a week or two, I think it was 2 weeks in of me inviting him into the larger community and pursuing this guy in the dorms and in his life, the guy kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, so how do I join your small group?" And I'm like, "Well, I thought you were already part of my small group, right?" But he hadn't made that connection yet because I had never invited him into that. And I can tell you so often small group leaders really, they'll go almost the entire way to getting someone into their small group community, but they'll neglect that last step, thinking that, well, if I invite them to come to the weekly meeting, they'll eventually just kind of, that's the definition of being part of my small group, or it's just going to be organic, so I'm never going to really have to do that. As long as I just invite them into my life and invite them to ministry activities, they'll just kind of intuitively be part of the group. And that can happen, that can be true. But when I got married to Lindsay, there was this ceremony. And the ceremony was in some ways just articulating what already was, but it was also articulating what we were now going to be to each other. And it was in that communication of commitment that commitment grew. And with small group guys or gals that are in our lives, like inviting them to respond, to say, "Yeah, I would like to be part of your group," is a powerful way to actually get them to commit, to create that commitment. I remember one guy that was in my small group, my intern year, I got to know this guy. He was kind of coming around the community, and I was needing to build a small group community, but he was already there but hadn't yet connected with a small group. And so I just asked him, I said, "Hey," we hung out after an event one night and we had a good conversation. And I said, "Hey, I'm building a small group and I really, I don't know a lot of people, and I would love to just have you in there as, a leader, that I could, I think I could be friends with you and have a great time reaching out to the campus with you and with the friendships that you have in your life." He said, "Yeah, I would love that. I would love to do that. I would love to join your group." And comically, because the guys were gracious with me, but there was other small group leaders that were pursuing this guy in their lives. And they had been pursuing him for much longer than I had, but they had never asked him to be part of their small group. And I kind of showed up at the 11th hour and just said, "Hey," I didn't realize, but I said, "Hey, would you like to join my group?" And because I was the one that asked, I was the one that got to have this guy in my small group community for the rest of that year. And even would come up, Johan Wood, he would actually come up and join me in pioneering Chi Alpha at CSU as a result. So ask and ask well. On this section here, you can see some practical advice for how to think through how to do an ask and whether you use those resources or just do it your own way, that's fine. But doing an ask can be a powerful way to create commitment through the relationship that you're forging as you walk out discipleship in their life.